Jeff Walker Books discussion. Now, listen, let's talk about what just happened on Disney Plus. The Acolyte season, or episode 3. That was a complete and utter dismantling of Star Wars. And you can complain all you want that, oh, you're just another hater. No, 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 no. Well, we're hating for a reason. It's awful. It's beyond awful. It's just bad. It has nothing to do with sexual orientation, and those that come out and say that it is are phobes themselves about other people's opinions. I really couldn't see how that could be the worst case scenario. I mean, they had the worst characterizations of these characters, and as I said before, it's come from the High Republic that they're pushing on us. Disney came out with their own version of their own sort of middle grade Jedi scenario, and it was called the High Republic, and it was awful. It was just awful because there's already an established lore that they could have used, and instead try to go, no, we're going to make our own. And the only problem is that they hired people that didn't exactly know what it was, and writers that have no clue, none, about what the Force is, how it works, and now we see it spilling into the shows. Because now Leslie Headland, who was in charge of this, who used to work for Harvey Weinstein at one time, assisting all these women that got used by him, is now the head of the show, creative control, and they gave her all this money to create space lesbians. Not that there's anything wrong with the lesbians or anybody on the show. Like, it's bad writing. It's bad direction. It is bad in general. There's nothing redeeming about this show whatsoever. And we could all see it coming, except for Disney. Disney kept pushing it through. They kept approving everything, and it's like the fans are trying to tell you something, but they don't want to listen to the fans anymore. In fact, they came out and just criticized the fans for being stupid, as if they didn't know what the franchise was that they were trying to create. These fans have been around since the dawn of, like, the Star Wars whole franchise, and it's just like, you want to insult these people that you're trying to produce this show for, but they said, no, we're trying to create a new generation of Star Wars fans. I've got to tell you, this is not the way to do it. It is horrible. You're not bringing fans, you're driving fans away. And this generation could care less. I can tell you right now, they could care less about this. This is not their generation of Star Wars. It isn't. You're just not creating Star Wars people. You're not. Ever since The Last Jedi, the fan base has been dwindling because they saw where this was going, and it was just horrible writing, bad decisions, corporate interference every step of the way. And George was in an interview at Cannes. It was his 80th something or other birthday not too long ago. And he was on stage saying that he doesn't care about, well, I mean, he cared, but he sold it to Disney, and now it's their problem. He's trying to retire. He wants to be with his family. He doesn't want to deal with all of this anymore, because he went through it in the prequel stage. When he was doing the prequels, a lot of fans did kind of lash out for some things. The whole midichlorian thing, we won't get into that. But at least it still stayed within the confines of what Star Wars was, because it was done by the creator of Star Wars, George Lucas. This is George Lucas's Star Wars, not Disney's Star Wars. If they wanted Star Wars, they should have come up with their own version of a Star Wars-y kind of thing, which, if they're going that way with this show, there you go. Just don't call them Jedi, call them something else. because this has nothing to do with Star Wars. It doesn't look like Star Wars. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. They try to make a murder mystery, and there's nothing mysterious about it. Everything was right there in 2 episodes. And you just like, what? But I can tell that they want to take this a step further, and they want to create the Jedi as the enemy, as the problem of all the Star Wars universe, because apparently these space lesbian witches are persecuted by the entire galaxy. Really, the entire galaxy is against them. Seriously, this is an immense galaxy full of various creatures, beings, which you still haven't shown a whole lot of. And you want to make it about yourselves. Like, where do you even begin with this stuff? Like, it is just... And it's so on the nose. It's so blatantly obvious of where the messaging is going. And it's tiresome. And that's why everybody hates it. It's tiresome. We do not want to see real world politics getting into Star Wars, because that's not what it's about. It wasn't about that in Star Wars in general. Maybe it hinted upon in some places, but for the most part, it was just for entertainment. It was an escapism to get away from all this nonsense in our galaxy. And that's the problem. They're trying to push politics into that fantasy world where it doesn't exist. It exists here in our galaxy, but not one far, far away in another long, long, long time ago. Because they have their own politics, their own issues, and that is not one of them. I'll tell you right now that shoving that into that one is a huge mistake. And it's killer. And it's, honestly, it's just... Somebody said it was Leslie Headland's therapy session, which it was. It was. You could tell in every inch of that show, it did not belong there. It was so bad. Just so bad. I mean, they had a campfire on a ship wing. I mean, flickering flames where there's no wind. None. There's solar wind, but that wouldn't make it do that, and it certainly wouldn't oxidize right there on the wing plane. Like, even in Star Wars, the show, or the movies, if there was a fire or an explosion, it shot out into space, because space is vacuumous, and it doesn't share the same principles and logic as being on a planet, where there's an atmosphere and wind, like real physical wind. So why are they doing this? Because they're morons. They got the worst writing staff, first off. They got the worst producer. They got the worst overseer of it all, Kathleen Kennedy, who is just agenda-driven this stuff, and it's just awful. And has, like I said, it has nothing to do with sexual orientation. None. Absolutely none. I don't care if there's a lesbian main character, or, like somebody who's like trying to make a transgendered character. The point is, you don't oversell it. You make it not about the issue, you make it about the story. If you make it about the issue, people will tune out. That's just true of anything, even in movies. I've seen movies where it's all political driven and people did not go to see that movie. It's just, you want... That's why some of these shows and some of these movies do well. It's because they take you out of that situation. Like, we've got enough of it in the world. You don't need more. You just don't need more of it. Fantasy, space, fantasy is there to take you away from all that. To get you into a world that you could, get away from this stuff. But when they start deconstructing the Force into something new, it's horrible. The Force, originally, George had done it as, like, mysterious. And then the next one, the prequels, I understood. why he was doing it, because he didn't want to create a religion. Because some people thought that he was creating a religion with the original trilogies, which he said that the Force was everywhere, that it was in all things, life, and that we are, part of it. We were bonded to it. We were all this, and I guess a lot of people started thinking it was religious and built a religion almost around it. There is a Force, a religion, like a Jedi thing that I've seen online, where people can go and they've turned it into a religious cult sort of thing. And I guess George got scared by that and thought, I should really try to deconstruct this, make it more scientific so that, it doesn't go into that. I don't want to make it a religion. He basically said that in one interview. He didn't want to make it a religion. And yet the Jedi do treat it like one, and they are monks of a sort. But I said they are there to learn from it, to experience it. They are just sages. They are not enforcers like they are trying to portray on this show. This show got none of what the Jedi are all about. Absolutely zip. They kept thinking that they're there to police the galaxy, which they were not. In all the stories, even in the legend stuff, it said that the Jedi were not there to police. They were there to observe. They were only when they were requested by the Republic to go and look for them. They were there as only an observer, and they were only to enforce if there was no other option. Because not even the High Republic. I'm not even going to mention the High Republic. I hate that so much. I even when the Republic was there, they have their own security forces. They have their own government to do all this stuff. So when somebody says, "Oh, they killed a Jedi," well, one Jedi should go with the investigative team from the Republic, because the Republic would have launched an investigation, not the Jedi. The Jedi would not let it. If it was about their own, I get it, but then the Republic would have to say, "Listen, we have to come with you. We have to help you solve this." So you should have had Republic people join them on this mission. No, they had nothing but Jedi. And I thought, what a stupid thing to do, because that just creates them as police. And I said, that's not what they're about. That's not what they did. Even in the prequels, they were not there to enforce. And they said that. We are not an army. We are not here to, dictate. They went on behalf of the Chancellor. The Chancellor is the one that sent them in because he felt like he could trust nobody but the Jedi. That's why they were there. And then this one, it's just... it explains nothing. And we're only 3 episodes in. And already you can see the viewership is dipping down. They're at like 22% just recently. And it's just getting worse and worse. And then you've got the shills that are trying to put this thing on a pedestal when clearly it isn't. I don't know how you cannot see the bad acting, the bad direction. And I know some people say, "Oh, the actors, they shouldn't be blamed." Yeah, I in some degrees yes, in some degrees no. Some of them were brought on by Disney. They were signed to contracts. They managed to weasel them into this because they gave them such a big like promised them a lot of things. I'm guessing. But yeah, some actors should have integrity and say, what's the show about? What does it do? I mean, some of them are not interested in Star Wars. Some of them are just doing it for acting chops and stuff. So I don't know whether to blame them or not, but I don't know. I mean, Disney hired the actress who played Rey. She's coming back. But honestly, I don't know what they promised her to come back, because I'm pretty sure she didn't want to come back. And where's Finn? Finn didn't get signed on. And then they promised a lot of things to the guy that played Finn. In the first movie, there was promise. There was promise in that first movie. I will give that. The Force Awakens. When they said that the Force awoken and they didn't mean that. They meant woke, as in right in the title. No, but they went. They had Finn, and I thought it was going to be all on him, and it went on to Rey, and I said, okay, so maybe they're interconnected some way. Somehow, this is going to be two Jedi coming out of this. No, they made it all about her, about she's the greater of the bunch, and and they pushed Finn back and back and back, and I thought, oh, that is horrible. And for Disney to say that they're all about inclusion when they're like hiding his picture in Chinese posters and foreign posters, yeah, it doesn't make you look good. It doesn't make you look like you're standing by what you're saying there. But yeah, the episode. I don't even want to break it down. I don't even want to put anything up about it, like picture wise. It doesn't deserve any praise whatsoever. This show does not deserve any praise. It's been the same for a lot of their shows. Book of Boba Fett, even The Mandalorian season 3. Andor, I couldn't get into Andor. A lot of people like Andor, and that's great. I just couldn't get into it because I found it like meaningless in some aspects. But people say, "Oh, it gets better, it gets better." And I said, "Yes, but a show should grip you the first time, and it doesn't. It takes a while to get into. But if it doesn't grip you in the first episode or second episode, it's not going to do well." I'll just tell you. Well, I mean, like, you could say that about Star Trek, The Next Generation. The first season was not great. Second season wasn't that great either, but it was getting a little better, maybe? I don't know. But then the third, they found their footing. Boom, gone. Here, you can't get that feel of anything. It's not even like so much as, in Star Trek The Next Generation, that wasn't a continuous plot threading to every episode. It wasn't. It was self-contained, written episodes. Whereas this is a fully fleshed out sort of mini-movie, in a way. But it's so bloody awful. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just... I don't encourage people to watch this. I don't. Because if you loved Star Wars, you will not like this show. At all. It even... I would even say that this is worse than the sequel movies. I'd rather watch Rian Johnson than this again. It's just... it is bad. It is, like, so bad. I really wish that they hadn't given her the green light for this one. There was so much they could have done with this. I mean, I've written fan fiction that had a mysterious plot, and I did better than she did for this, but I'm not going to put fan fiction up on a movie screen. I'm just not, because this is what it is. This is bad fan fiction. The one that's way, at the bottom of the list of where you start getting to the whole really breaking of the fantasies. It's just awful, awful fan fiction of the worst kind. And that's what I call it. It's fan fiction on film. It just is. It has nothing to do with Star Wars at all. From the looks, I mean, other than lightsabers and the mention of Jedi, but it's there's no mention of anything else. Nothing. And you're supposed to be 100 years before the prequels. So what you're doing is breaking canon, because they said that these two lesbian women use the thread. They don't call it the Force, they call it the thread. See what I mean? They're breaking down the Star Wars barriers already, and by this. And then they said the two lesbian women created their dual children, the twins, out of the Force, or the thread, or whatever the hell they're calling it now. So now they've destroyed the whole Anakin plot, because Anakin was created by the Force and not two people's wills. It wasn't anything like that. And when George Lucas, he said that the wills, he was talking about the will of the Force. It is an actual beings. Those are the midichlorians, the wills that move the Force. That and he got technical, and I think that kind of destroyed the mythos a bit. But that's his own right to do it because he is the creator of it. I would personally just keep it mysterious and not dwell into it too much because some things do not need to be explained. Some things are just there. Unfortunately, George felt otherwise, and he wanted to do his show one way, and that's fine. That's his right. It was his show. And now it belongs to Disney because he's washed his hands of it. He already said that he is not involved anymore, that he doesn't want to deal with it anymore, and that it's not his anymore. And that's why he walked away, because he probably did see a lot of what they were coming up with, and he was like, well, it's out of my hands now. It's like, I don't have any control on this whatsoever. And they lied to him, because when he signed it over, he thought he was going to be an active consultant on they said, no, you're just a name. Sorry. Wow. So this man hands you gold, and you turn it into fool's gold. And I would be insulted. First off, he should never have sold it to Disney, but then how did he know that he thought they would elevate it? I don't know how he thought that. But I do know he was talking to so many of the other directors and producers about taking over the reins of the show. He went to Peter Jackson at one time to ask if he could take the show, and Peter Jackson, I think, refused. I mean, that's a big responsibility. I get it. That's why a lot of them said no. I don't know why he didn't end up giving it to Fox, but then Fox would have become Disney anyway. So there you go. I don't know. Maybe that's well. Fox did merge eventually into Disney, and I think he pretty much knew where that was going before that happened. So I think that's why he chose Disney, because they're just absorbing all these companies. And I think he just wanted to let it go because he's done. Like he said he didn't want to keep going because he was 80 and he just didn't want to, another 10 years of his life taken off of this whole movie, which I get. I mean, it does take a lot to produce this stuff the way he does. Disney, it's just like a drop of the hat. Okay, let's get this going. And that's why he gave it to them. They have more resources available. They have more money, apparently, to spend on this nonsense. I mean, they spent $189 million on this one episode. Why? There are people that can do it for far less and get far more meaning out of it. This goes alongside with the Ahsoka show. I loved Ahsoka. I loved the concept of Ahsoka. I didn't at first in the animated Filoni stuff, because I just didn't think I didn't think Anakin had a Padawan. But I got over it eventually. I did get over it. And then her character got better and better, and that's great. And then they made him. They put her in a Mando season, which she actually did fairly well in that one, which was surprising because you sit there and you go, well, that was a neat, compact episode. And the Morgan lady, I didn't know where she sat in there, and then I realized, oh, they're going to make her the enemy of Ahsoka. But no, they made Thrawn. They brought Thrawn back, which was from Legends. So they are a bit of a hypocritical company where they say, oh, no, we don't acknowledge Legends. Like, that's not canon. And then they bring over certain characters, certain plot points, and you go, oh, I think you're kind of hypocritical in that position. And anyway, that show was just as bad, if not more as well. Well, I mean, not as bad as this one, because this one was way, 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 way worse. That's why I keep saying it. Don't bring the politics of our universe into that universe. That universe is self-contained in its own thing. You have to think of the people living in there, not the people living here. And that's the whole thing about being a good writer, of someone that's trying to develop lore, you don't create politics that come from us to that world, because that world's got different politics altogether. There's far more going on in that you could have covered. You could have made some sort of plot within the Republic that something's happening. You could have introduced other characters, but I'm glad they didn't, because that would have ruined them too. The return of the Sith, but they tried to create Sith in this one, but it wasn't quite Sith, and it was like so confusing. I don't know how else to go on and on and on about this, but I am. Why? Why am I going on about this show? Because it bothers me. It bothers the fans. It bothers people that just got into like Star Wars. Because it has nothing to do with it. It just doesn't. It's so cringe. And as a writer, as a fan, I'm insulted by this person that created this. I'm insulted that they've destroyed something that took a man so long. And that's the thing, because it was created by a man, a patriarchy. No, it was created by somebody that started the damn thing. You just don't dismiss something that someone took all of their life to create and then smash it with your own stupid narrow view. You want to introduce stuff into it, then fine. Do it gradually, do it smartly. Don't make it in your face like that, That's annoying. And then you see the people coming on and trashing the fans for criticizing. Oh, you're gay. You don't hate gays. Oh, you hate everybody that you're a phobe. You're an ist. And it's like, these are the same people that used to get bullied. And now you want to bully the people that got bullied themselves as kids. Like, what is this? Anybody that loved Star Wars at one time used to get, like, nerds. And then they go on about nerds being gay. Nerds are not all gay. Like, the nerds are nerds. Like, they're the ones that love this stuff from the beginning. And you want to insult them by putting this garbage in here. And like I said, kids got beaten up for liking stuff like this a long time ago. Like, and now you're coming in and you're trying to beat on them as well. It's deplorable. It is absolutely horrible. Like, kids used to get teased and stuff like that, and now you want to make it about that. Well, I'm sorry. It just doesn't work. And I don't buy it. I don't buy the politics that's happening right now. I think this is agenda-driven, sure, but it's also hurting the cause of the lesbian and gay rights. You guys are you're becoming militants about this, and it's not good. And see, everybody that starts something becomes a militant. There's the militant in every sort of thing. And then they say, well, we have to be assertive because nobody's we were all listening to you. The 80s into the 90s, into the early 2000s, progression was happening. It was doing well. That's how you had to do it. You had to go in slow. Sure, there was moments where it got a little in your face real, but we've slowly come back. But now, politics have changed. I would say that those that are conservative have been pushing back a bit more. So I see what you're trying to say in there, but in the way you are becoming the elitist of the whole LGBTQ. The elites of that particular group are now pushing back hard, but they're doing it against the wrong people. They're doing it for everybody instead of a main target. And I think when you start doing that, you start alienating your entire people. It's a bizarre situation we're in. It's like we're going back. We're going backwards. We're not going forwards. You're actually harming this. uh, progression. You want people to be on your side? Then stop with this. Just be subtle, be graceful. Don't start acting like the other hardliners, because that's just going to make it worse. I'm not an ist. I'm not a phobe. My brother's gay. I have my nieces. One of my nieces is trans, and her partner's trans. So I'm not. That I don't care about their life. It's like I care about them, but I don't care about what orientation they are, and I'm not going to sit there and celebrate it because it's not my life to celebrate. It isn't. I can love them as a people, right? I can love them as who they are to me, but I'm not interested in what happens behind the doors with them. Not my problem. It's not my thing, obviously, and they can understand that. But to continually harp on somebody that, oh, you don't like that? Well, then you must be this. And it's like, no, you can't keep coming up with that same excuse day after day after day. In the long run, it's just about the show, not the orientation, not, it's the people that are running the show, how they went about it. Like it's happening in Doctor Who as well. They made it more personal than it should be. They didn't make it about the character. They didn't make it about the story. They didn't understand the franchise they took. And I know in Doctor Who, Russell T Davies came back and is totally just going full on, head on as a militant. And it's ruining the show. Maybe that was maybe that was what he wanted to do. He wanted to kill it, let it die. I think that's what he wanted to do, because obviously why would you sabotage a show that's been doing so well for so many years? And then he was a bit of a hypocrite himself, because he created some of the best things in Doctor Who's return, and yet now he's dismantling it. So you sit there and so something's happened between those years that he's become more bitter, more, I don't know, anal of his own right. It's bizarre. All I can say is that this show sucks. It sucks. The Acolyte is the worst. I'm declaring it is the worst show on this whole thing of Disney Plus. It is. It's just terrible. It's the awful, awful show. If they keep this going, they are going to lose everything. The franchise is going to die horribly. Is there a chance to save this? Maybe. I would end it here. Don't do any more. Kill all the movies that you planned and get some actual writers that know what this show is about. The whole people at Lucasfilm have been totally replaced by people that do not know, that are trying to create their own force or their own Star Wars universe out on the back of somebody that did it all their lives. That's wrong to me. That would be like replacing Tolkien's books and saying, well, he didn't know what he was doing. And there have been some fans that, or some showrunners that have said, oh, well, he doesn't know what he was talking about. Right. The man that created it didn't know what he was talking about. This is the kind of idiocy we're coming into in this, and then further into the century. It's like stupidity has just gained another notch, and it just sickens me that this is where my kids are going into. I'm trying to tell them, don't settle for this stuff. I mean, it's just don't even pander to it. I stopped watching Doctor Who a long time ago, and I loved Doctor Who. I was all about Doctor Who, and then when I saw how it was progressing, I got out of it. I had nothing against a female doctor. I was willing to give it a shot, but the writing was horrible. The actress was not doing well because maybe they weren't directing her the right way, or she took the character the wrong way, that it didn't really resonate to me. But from that point on, even some of Capaldi's era, didn't care for it. I think the writing was getting really bad on that. I think Cabaldi knew that too, because he was getting tired of it as well. So for me, it kind of ended around Matt Smith's era. Even though Matt Smith, some of his stuff was iffy too. It was getting a bit, and I didn't like how it ended on his last performance. Like, it didn't make sense. He didn't regenerate properly. So to me, that means he didn't regenerate. Um, like, you could go back and correct that by that point on. But then you're dismissing Capaldi. So it's like, what do you do? And then the Timeless Children ruin all that. They destroyed the whole mythos of Doctor with that one. So it's dead. Now this Star Wars is dead because they've destroyed the mythos of the Force and everything that has to do with Star Wars. Is Star Wars salvageable? At this point, I don't know. In the minute you start getting into time travel, that's when I know he created that Filoni created this sort of netherverse area that the Jedi can get into, where it had like different windows into different time zones, and I thought, oh no, this is where you cannot take it. It's just no. Then it starts getting too weird for Star Wars, and it's something else entirely. It has nothing to do with that. And then what I would suggest is stopping it, sending the Star Wars universe 1,000 years ahead of time after all that, and kind of rebooting it from that point on, saying that, there was this thing called the Force, and I had an idea for a movie where you could put that in the future. The Force has been gone from the galaxy until somebody rediscovers it, kind of like thing, and build it from there. But again, that's more like fan fiction again. And I said it's not on me to rebuild, but I would, if I was to do it and make correct whatever, I would set it 1,000 years ahead, maybe from that point on. But even now, they've kind of destroyed that idea, and I really wanted to enjoy like all the Star Wars stuff, but I think they've oversaturated it now. I think it was a wrong idea to make a series, even though I did love Mando seasons 1 and 2, and in fact they should have stopped it at 2. I would have liked it if they stopped it at 2, because from that point on, it was when they made the 3rd season, and then they're making a movie, which Filoni's just going to cram full of all of his other characters that nobody cares a dang about. I think it's dead. To be honest, I think it's dead. They've killed it. I mean, Disney they had a handgun and they were just shooting everywhere until the gun was empty. That's how I look at it. They wielded it like they didn't know how to use a gun and just shot everything in sight. They even shot the person that gave him the gun in the first place. That's a terrible analogy, but that's what it feels like. And, yeah, don't watch this show. Don't watch it. No. I don't care if you're going to hate on me about it. If you like it, you like it. You're that generation, I guess. I don't know. But from the fans' point of view, it's not... It wasn't made for us, that's for damn sure. And that's what they keep saying. Well, it wasn't made for you. Go touch grass out there. And it's like, no. This was a show that was for everybody. And you're actually not helping by creating this stuff. Too much politics, too much interwoven nonsense that nobody wants. You just don't get it. And obviously, you don't. We don't get it. You just don't. You have no idea what any of this is because you're from an era that doesn't understand it. It's just how it is. You didn't want to give it to somebody that understood it because you're afraid of a patriarchy, whatever that means. In Star Wars, I don't understand. There were plenty of female heroes building into the Star Wars universe. Yes, it was taking a long time, but it got there. I mean, there's strong characters. There's Leia, there's Padme, there's like all these female Jedi that are in there. You just had to go back and have a look. Like, that's the problem. Nobody wants to go and look. Oh no, those were from a different era. Those were, they didn't have any. It's like you didn't even bother to go look, did you? You didn't understand. You didn't watch. You just glazed over it. So, what's your point, Jeff? Well, my point is that this Star Wars franchise doesn't exist anymore. It just doesn't. I'm happy with the movies I got, and I acknowledge them. I'm happy with Mando Season 1 and 2. That's what I got. And the rest is nonsense. The sequel movies, no. Maybe the first one's okay. It's a bit of a cop-out with having another Death Star in there, but could have been so much better. And in fact, they had potential to be better. And then they lost it with Rian Johnson's bastardization of The Last Jedi. And then you got the multi-mess of whatever the Rise of Skywalker was, which just wasn't good at all. It was just terrible. Goodbye Star Wars. I mean, George washed his hands of it, so will I. It was just sad because I was a big fan. I have lots of the Star Wars stuff. I've got some characters here. I've got like toys and I've got like Lego on my shelf of it. And I'll still love the era that it was from, but I won't accept any of this stuff now. Not until they improve it by tenfold, because this is awful. And they've ruined it. And if they lose the license or the creative control for this to some other company, so be it. So be it. But it was so part of everybody's lives. It was part of my life that I was so looking forward to the future of this stuff. And I'm absolutely shattered by this. I'm absolutely devastated by this. That they would be so willing to like kill people's hopes and dreams by this way, and they have. Don't fool yourself. They have hurt the ones that like loved this for generations, and killed it within 1 or 2 episodes. And I think it's absolutely deplorable of this person. Leslie Headland should get all the blame for this. So should Kathleen Kennedy for approving it. These people understood nothing about about the franchise. And what more can I say other than it's done? And that's all I have to say about that anymore. I'm not talking about Star Wars anymore from this point on, because it's done to me. And I feel really sad about that. It generally hurts to say it. It's like you've lost a good relative, and you're never going to get it back. It hurts. It hurts very much that they've done this, and they should be very, very ashamed, because it's like they've murdered that person. It truly does. And they've gotten away with it. And I'll leave it at that until my next more positive video, I suppose, on a different subject, more on my books, which I wanted to mention again. You know, the Burning Fire Rises is being part of a contest right now, the Spiffbo, and I encourage everybody to go read it. Maybe that we get a new franchise to start loving. I don't know. There's hope. Anyway, this is me saying goodbye to Star Wars. Goodbye.